This is the most aggressive opening in chess. G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Chess with Dirks. And today we're going to go over the Scotch game. And the reason I love the Scotch is because it's just such an aggressive opening that allows us to strike in the center early with d4. And it's also not boring like our traditional London system or normal Italian game. So we're not here to go over them, we're here to go over the Scotch. And let's get straight into it. So obviously this is the setup we're going for. But in order to get there, we get here with normal moves, e4, e5, and then the most common, knight f3. And obviously we're attacking this pawn, and their most common way to defend that is to get their own knight out with knight c6. And now, as we said, instead of playing the normal sort of Italian game with bishop c4, we're just going to go striking the center early and sort of try and get black out of their theory by just taking the center as fast as we can. Now, black's got a few options here. If they want to take this pawn and sort of trade early, which is actually the best move. And in this video, we're actually going to go through some of the best moves for black as well, because obviously when we play the Scotch, I feel like it just suffocates you and you get to like move 7 or 8 and it's like, I've got no pieces out. How did this happen? And obviously, if we're versing it, we don't want that to happen to us. So I'm going to give you some of the best moves. And even though I said it takes you out of theory, I'm also going to give you some of the theory to capitalize on their most common mistakes, but also if they do make the best moves, we need to know how to go about it, okay? So, obviously, we're going to get into it, but black's best move is to take this pawn on d4 and trade there. But if they don't, two of their most common moves is pushing this pawn to d6 to reinforce the center, but then also getting their knight out here to f6, okay? So, first of all, if they push the pawn to reinforce their center, every single time what I like to do is just trade, okay? And we win that pawn, and then when they take back here, we can just trade the queens. And I know it's a little bit boring when I say it's heaps fun and we get to play heaps tactical chess, but if we're able to trade the queens and then obviously they can't take back with the knight because then they'll leave the pawn undefended. So they're gonna take back with the king and then they're not able to castle, and that just works for us, okay? And then we're able to get our bishop out, castle, and we've just got an easy game. Their king's in the center of the board. They're not able to castle. We don't mind that, do we? Okay? So now, instead, if they don't take this pawn and they don't push their pawn to d6, and instead they play one of the other most common moves because they're not really able to get their bishop out because we'll just tempo it, and they play the most common move in this position of knight f6, which is actually a little bit of a mistake. What I like to do is, I just like to push this pawn, win a tempo on this knight, and then it can't really go anywhere. If it hops in here, we'll just kick it away, force it to the edge of the board, and if we really want to, we can take, and then they're forced to double their pawns on the outside of the board, which they don't like. So what are they going to be forced to do? Go back home with the knight, which just looks so ugly. And we've already got this extremely strong center. Knight out, look to get our other bishop out, defend this, and it's just a really nice position for us early in the game. But instead of all this, if they end up deciding to take the pawn, which, as we said, we're going to give you a little bit of theory as black, that is the best move, okay? And if they decide to take the pawn, instinct every single time, we take back here with our knight, and we get our knight in the center of the board. And as we said, we're going to give you the best moves for black, but the most common move for black in this position, it's actually a mistake. And it's deciding to trade the knights. Because if you trade the knights, I'm just able to get my queen straight into the game. I've got this really nice strong pawn. And then what are you going to do? If I had to say to you, what are you going to play here as black? You can't really get the bishop out because I'll just take it if it comes to either of these two squares. You're not going to bring it to d6 because then you've just trapped in your pawn and your bishop. So what are you going to play? You're probably going to play knight f6. And the reason that's just such a disgusting move is because I can push my pawn, winning a tempo on the knight, and then where's the knight going to go? It can't come here, it can't come here, because my queen's just going to snatch it up. And then if it comes here to h5, what am I going to do? That's even worse of a mistake, because I'll push g4, attacking the knight, and then it can't go back, so it's just trapped, and they're going to lose the piece 4 moves into the game, okay? So now you say, what if they don't move the knight and they don't go back home straight away and they bring the queen out? And now I'm not able to take the knight because the pawn's pinned to the king, okay? We just play simple here. We just keep developing our pieces, get our bishop out, break that pin, and now we've renewed our attack on the knight. So what are they forced to do? They're forced to go back home with it. And now look at this. We've got a queen out, we've got a bishop out, an extremely strong pawn. And we're just looking to get into our development, castle kingside, and then we're going to be throwing our pawns, and we love this for us. All right, but now you say, Dirks, what if they play the best move? And in this position, if they don't trade the knights, which is not a good move to trade the knights as black, they've got 3 different options, and we're going to go through them here. We're going to go bishop c5, knight f6, and then the other nice book move is bringing the queen out here to f6, okay? So in this position, if they play that move, knight to c5, what that does is it adds another attacker to our knight in the center of the board, and we don't want to trade here yet because then it just sort of opens this bishop on a strong diagonal. So what we want to do here is get our own bishop out and just keep that tension in the center of the board whilst developing another piece, and then we're just looking to put some pressure on. And now I said to you, if you had to play as black, what move would you play here? And most people would go with, actually a mistake, and bring their knight out here to f6. Because if you bring this knight out here to f6, no, we're not going to push this pawn because you're just going to be able to take. But we've got this nice move, which is sort of an in-between move, where we take the knight. And the reason this move's so good is because it opens the attack up on the bishop, but it also, in taking this piece, they need to deal with it because it's looking at the queen. And now, the queen's not able to come out here to defend the bishop because the knight also defends that square. So what do they have to do? They're going to be forced to take this. And if they take here, we don't even have to take the bishop just yet, because what are we going to do? As we said before, trade the queens, they can't castle, and then we're going to be able to pick up the bishop for free. And already we're up a piece about 10 moves into the game, which is just what we love, right? But then instead, if they don't get the knight out here, and instead what their best move is getting their queen out here to f6 and just keeping that tension on our knight on d4. What we want to do is just push our pawn, keep that tension, and we're going to be fine. We're going to be looking to get our bishop out, potentially castle, and then just play a normal game from there. All right, so now instead of playing bishop c5, another one of black's most common moves is just getting their knight out. And this is a nice move, but what do we want to do here? So we can't push this pawn to win a tempo on this knight because their knight's not able to take, and our knight's not here on f6 defending there. So what do I like to do in this position? It's a little bit boring, but I just like to trade the knights. And the reason I like to do this is because if they take back with their d-pawn, as we said, we'll just be able to trade the queens, they'll have to take back with the king, and then they're not able to castle. We'll just get our bishop out, look to castle kingside, and we've just got an easy game. Their pawns are doubled, and I just like this position for us, okay? And then same sort of thing, if they do take back with the b-pawn here, it's sort of a little bit ugly. The pawns are doubled. Again, same sort of idea. Get the bishop out, look to castle, and then even their bishop's just a little bit trapped in here, okay? But now, okay, so instead of all that rubbish, what about instead, if they don't want to trade and they're playing nice moves, they play this other book move and bring their queen out here to f6. Now, this is a little bit interesting, okay? Because what I always want us to do is, we could get the bishop out if we wanted to, but what I like to do in this position is trade, okay? And the reason I like to trade is, and this is a cheeky one that I want you to remember as black, all right? Because if you're playing as black, I like to go for this line. And instead of taking back this knight, what I want to do is, I want to get my bishop out. And why do I want to get my bishop out? Because what we're looking to do is target with our queen on this f2 square, which is just dangerous. We can still take back this knight whenever we want to, but we also renew this threat of starting to attack our own threats as black on f2. So as white, what we want to do here is we just want to get our queen out, and I know this looks a little bit ugly for us, but sort of just remember, I'm showing us worst case. I'm showing you a little bit of deep theory. That's sort of just the way we need to play if these situations arise, which we will if we're versing good players. And just remember, the reason I'm showing you this video, yes, it's such an aggressive opening that often takes people out of their theory. But look, bro, like people like Gary Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen, they use this opening at high levels. Like, it's a good opening. It's not one of those aggressive Danish gambits that actually does have a few flaws. It's genuinely a good opening, and I want to show you guys for a reason, okay? So in this position, if they do get these pieces out, we can't really save our knight here, even though we're up a piece. So we just want to get our queen out here to f3, and we're happy to go for the trade, because even though it doubles our pawns, we're just going to look to get our pieces out, and then we can castle kingside. And now we've actually got this nice open G file that we can use for our rook, okay? But yeah, so those sort of 3 moves as black is their most common moves in the Scotch, okay? either when they get the bishop out, the knight, or the queen. And these are sort of the best moves and the best case scenario for white if they don't end up sort of playing into our hand of deciding to trade the knights there and we can get our queen out early, because this opening is just so aggressive and so dangerous because we're able to just suffocate our opponents. And often black's just sitting back of like, how has this happened? I've got no pieces out. White's got all this development, and I'm going to show you a few different games that are from a few of the reels that I've played with the Scotch game of just a few of the lines that can come up when we play the Scotch that just sort of show how aggressive and dangerous this really is. And just be careful. I'm a little bit dramatic. I understand it's a little bit of a carry on in these videos, but just enjoy and you're going to see just how dangerous and aggressive this game really is. Enjoy, guys. Wow, so they trade the pawns straight up in the Scotch. So let's just take straight back with our knight here. Now, okay, so they decide to trade the knights early as well, but we've already said it. That's not the best move here. So let's take back with the queen here and look to punish them early. No, no, no. They get the knight out, but again, that's just terrible. Because I can push the pawn on here, and they're going to be forced back to the starting square with the knight. Interesting, okay, so instead of moving the knight, the queen comes out, and I can't take because my pawn's pinned here to the king, so we don't need to outthink the room here, and just develop another piece and break that pin at the same time. Lovely, so we finally force them back so we can develop yet another piece. And now look at this, my develop is already out of control with all my pieces out, and none of their pieces are off the 7 rank, which is why I love the Scotch, and it's just so dangerous. Now, so they push the pawn to try and get something going, but instead of taking here, I'm going to hop my knight in to attack the queen, but also threaten the fork on c7, which is such a dangerous square. Nice, okay, so they move the queen to save it from my knight, but still keep defending that c7 square. But now I'll just take that pawn, thank you. No, mate, you can't take with the bishop there, because the bishop was locking down the whole king side for you. So now I'll just take on g7, and it's not looking good for my opponent. Oh, geez, they moved the knight to save it, but I can just take the rook here with check. Thank you very much. Nice, so their only option there was to go back with the knight, and instead of taking the knight, I'm going to hop in for the fork of the king and the queen, and they can't take because the knight's pinned to the king, and this is really turning into a bloodbath for my opponent here. Oh, but it just resigned. GG. Oh, okay, so the knight's out, so let's strike in the center with the Scotch. Yep, they take, so let's just take straight back. Wow, so they take again, which isn't the best move here, because I can get my queen straight into the game now. D6, okay, so let's get our knight out here and take a lead in development early, which is why we love playing the Scotch. Knight f6, nice. So let's get our bishop all the way out and pin that knight to the queen. Yeah, so they break the pin with their bishop now, and we're going to start our attack here in castle queen side, which we don't need to be scared of here, given our king's safe in this position. Nice, they castle as well, but now we're going to get aggressive and push our pawn and look to put some pressure on that knight. Wow, so they trade the pawns in the center, but I'll take back here, and I'm going to be opening a discovered attack on the queen, and we're just going to suffocate them here with the Scotch. Yep, so they had to go to e8 there, so now we can reap the rewards of the Scotch and pick up the free pawn. Oh no, they get their bishop out here, but bishop v5 is dirty for me here, because the queen is just getting thrown all around the place here. Yep, so they had to move their queen there, and they're looking for a queen trade, but we're having none of that, because we just want a free piece here, and that's the advantage of the Scotch, getting our pieces active so early. Oh, gross. They push their pawn to get my bishop out of here, but I'll take that trade, and then when they take back, I'll just win the pawn, and I'm going to be exposing their king. Yep, they take, so I'll take back, and now their king's just fully exposed. Oh no, the queen comes out to try and sort of free up the rooks maybe, and they can't take that pawn because my queen's there, so it's a bit of a useless move for me, but I'm going to lift my rook here, and I'm going to look to get it on the g-file and go for a mate. Oh no, mate, they moved the rook looking to get the open file, and I could take here and actually win a rook, but I'm going to go for more and leave it, and stick with my original plan and attack the king and go for a mate. No, lad, that's not good, because my queen's just able to come in here, and the king can't escape, so that'll be mate. GG! Oh, okay, so they accept our pawn in the Scotch here, so let's get straight into our bag and take back with the knight. Oh, no, that's a bit gross taking again with the knight there, because it allows me to get my queen straight into the game. Now, okay, so they play the most common move, which isn't really good, getting the other knight out, because now I can push my pawn on forward, winning a tempo on the knight, and I'm going to send it straight back home. Wow, c5 to attack my queen here, nice. And I can't take the knight for now, so let's just come back with the queen to save it. Oh no, so they hop the knight in instead of going back to the starting square, thinking they've just one attempt on my queen. But again, I can just move it up and attack the knight yet again. Wow, so they're really playing hyper aggressive here, attacking my queen. And that would be good, but I've got a nice en passant move here, which not only takes the pawn, but opens a discovered check on their king. Nice, they developed the bishop to block the check, but now I continue with my aggression with another check from my own bishop here, and they can't move the king because of my pawn, and they can't move the bishop because it's pinned to the king, so they're going to be forced to give up their queen here. Yeah, they block with the queen, so I'll take that. Thank you very much. Oh, but they just resigned. GG. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. That's the video. If you stuck around this far, let me know how it was in the comments. I got told in the comments the other day I'm the most annoying bloke on YouTube. And when I thought about it, I was like, you're probably right. So if you think that, let me know. But yeah, if you stuck around this far, I love you legends. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.